Hi. Strange enough, I've actually been able to get on a golf course a couple of times the last couple of weeks, and after looking at my round analysis, I found that the reason for my scoring, or the quality of my scoring, had a lot to do with my driving. I was hitting a fair amount of fairways, but when I wasn't hitting the fairways, it was gone, and it was costing me penalty shots. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to just basically use the Callaway Fitting Centre here and go through a number of options. I usually play the VTS shaft, which I think I told you about in my What's in the Bag video. I've played this baby for the last 5 or 6 seasons, and when I get a new club, I just put in the same shaft. And I've never had any reason to really doubt it. I know that it's quite a high launching shaft, but that's never really bothered me. I thought it helped me with the carry on the ball. It's got a little bit more torsion, so you can feel the play in the shaft. So I've never really had a problem with it. But the question is whether I'd be better off with another shaft and whether that would help me to keep the thing in play. Testing new shafts is quite simple nowadays, fortunately, just through this screw system that all the shafts have. So I've got 4 different extra shafts here to try out, and I'm going to start off with a Hazardous smoke, which is basically the other end of the scale if you're looking at shafts. This is a heavier shaft, a 70-gram shaft instead of a 60-gram shaft. It's got a high kick point, which means the main flex point is nearer to the grip end. In the VTS, it's kind of a mid-kick point. It's got a low torque, so really couldn't be more different. I'm going to get 3 shots with each driver or with each shaft, and then take a look at the trackman data and see if there's anything that I can tell from that. Felt surprisingly good, actually. It's gone a little low and left, but that's not a bad shot for a shaft that I haven't swung before. Definitely the feeling of being stiffer, but I quite like that, and also the weight is actually helping me to kind of feel a little bit more kind of where the golf club is in the swing. More or less the same place. Surprisingly good. Interesting to see. So now we're going to just swip it out a little bit. Go from the, let's see what's the next one up. We'll go from the smoke to the VTS, which is my usual kind of stock shaft. I would expect it to perform best out of all of these, obviously just because I play this shaft every week and have been for a long time. Lost that one a bit. I have a little bit left there. It still doesn't feel bad. Again, not a terrible strike on the golf ball. I feel like I'm kind of getting the ball on the face, but that's gone a little bit to the right, which is more or less what I've been seeing on the golf course. I've not really known where the thing's going to land. So it's very difficult when I'm planning a shot, of knowing kind of what side of the fairway should I be aiming at, to make it easier to get on the fairway. If we don't know in which direction the golf ball's going, that can get difficult. Okay, that's actually more or less down the middle. So, they're okay, but not particularly enamoured. Next one is the Evenflo. The Evenflo is a new shaft this season from Project X. They basically profess that this shaft has a far more consistent bend profile, which means that basically the shaft is bending quite evenly over its entire length, which apparently helps. A lot of times you'll find that buttons tip ends will be consistent. They'll change the middle, or they'll have a weaker butt end and a stiffer tip end. This is what they'll call a profile of a shaft. I think for the normal users like myself, it's really more a case of taking them out and trying them and seeing how it feels. Again, this is a little bit heavier than my shaft. It's 67 grams against 60. It's got another kind of low or lower torque, a little bit more than the Hazardous, and a mid kick point, which is kind of in the middle of the shaft, which should give me a little bit of a higher launch on this one. And that definitely felt different to both of the shafts that I've hit before. Although it didn't necessarily feel heavier, strangely enough, but I think it might have to do with the kick in the shaft, which seemed definitely against the last one a little bit lower. Although that was quite a good feeling on the shaft. It might well have been the swing of the first one. I really had the feeling of having kind of good pressure on the shaft up till impact there. I must admit that this is only 7 grams, but it definitely helps me get a little bit more of a feeling for where the club is in comparison to my own shaft. Yeah, that's an awful lot straighter than my own shaft, but we'll take a look. And testing shafts can actually be quite good fun as well. If you've got the opportunity, I'd definitely recommend you do it. And it also kind of wakens your senses up to actually feel, can I tell the difference between one shaft and another? Or is it all basically smoke and lights? The next thing is the Ozik. This is the heaviest shaft that I have. It's got a mid to high kick point, so again up at the other end of the scale from my shaft. I wanted to put this one in just to see whether my weight idea actually works, of kind of getting a feeling, and whether it costs me any club head speed, because often they'll tell you that the lighter you can get the club, the more club head speed you can generate, which makes a lot of sense in physics, but whether it actually is provable with the human being, we'll see. I'm trying to put more or less the same swing on all of these, obviously not trying to give it too much. Yeah, that's not bad actually. It does feel a bit heavier. It does feel a bit boardier, means not quite as much flexibility in the shaft as maybe the others, more like the Hazardous. That's leaked away from me a bit. Could well have been the swing though. Lost my balance a bit on that one. Not enamoured with it. Not enamoured with it. It's a different feel. It's heavier, but maybe a little bit too heavy. Trapman's just decided to disappear. Where are you gone? Come back, Chuck. And finally, we're going to try the Tensei. Now the Tensei is a 67 gram shaft, mid kick point, mid to low torque. So again, less torque than mine, but probably a very similar kind of profile on it. Just more weight. So a bit like the VTS, but a little heavier. That's more or less how it felt. So again, a little whippier than the VTS, and also kind of the Evenflo. Yeah, I quite like that. It kind of reminds me a bit of the VTS shaft, but it's just got a little bit more weight to it. Really can't moan about any of those. They were quite a good dispersion and looked to me to be the longer shots. So let's have a look at the Trapman results. So that's exactly what I thought. The Hazardous is really in the target. I've a little bit left, but not bad at all. Really tight dispersion, which is really what I'm looking for. The VTS, on the contrary, is all over the shop. No wonder. Then I'm thinking about getting a new shaft. If you look at those, not even one ball flight. The Evenflo, not a lot better, left and right. So that's not really the answer, and it's up to the Tensei. I think that was the one I really felt good on. You can see a far tighter dispersion, even more distance on this, and clubhead speed's the same on all of them, irrespective of the weight. Even the Ozik seems to be the same thing, but I've hit that all over the shop as well. So, in my opinion, the thing that I'm trying to change is basically this dispersion, and the best dispersion on all of the shafts was the Hazardous. They had a smoke, but it was a good deal shorter than the Tensei. The Tensei was more familiar to me from kick and from torsion, although it's a little heavier, which I seem to actually like. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of go after it a little bit. Now that's not going to mean I'm going to be miles quicker in the swing, but it means that basically I want to see if I really kind of go at these shafts and jump at them, am I still going to keep it on the fairway? So we'll start with the Tensei. So I've caught that well. Has drifted off a little bit more than I would like, but it's on the fairway, I think. Again, we're really kind of pressing the boundaries here. That's no better than the old shaft. That's gone. So definitely a little bit more dispersion there. Don't know if it's really a lot quicker. We will see. Yeah, maybe a little bit. I think I've got about 3 miles an hour more head speed there in comparison to the first time around. And obviously that gives me a little bit more distance. But what happens with the Hazardous? Now, theoretically, this shaft, because it's stiffer, or at least it has a higher kick point, and I think that you could say that the profile is stiffer, I would expect this to be a little bit more easy to control than the Tensei, but at the same time I don't want to be losing any head speed, ball speed, and obviously direction. We will see. Wow, that felt good. That felt good, went good. That's right down the middle. I think the best way to describe it is just control. I just feel like I have control over the club there. Although I was really kind of, at least in my feeling, jumping at it. 105 miles an hour, which isn't jumping at it for the tour boys. That was also right down the middle. Also 105 miles an hour. I'm liking these numbers a lot. I found all of those. I'm going to find all of those. And they look longer than the Tensei there. Definitely in the feeling, easy to control. Let's have a look at the numbers on Trapman. The numbers seem to kind of confirm that. I've got more dispersion on the club face if you look at that, and although they're not bad, you know, dispersions numbers, they're okay. The Hazardous driver is better. I'm hitting it, you know, 15 meters further, and I've got a tighter dispersion on it. It's also tighter on the face. So for some reason, I'm finding the middle of the club face easier with the Hazardous. So there you have it. Actually, a shaft, which is most certainly going to be worth trying on the golf course. I think I would, if I have the opportunity, take it on the golf course before I would actually buy it. These things aren't cheap, but most certainly just changing the shaft has given me a totally different feeling about the driver and the driver's ability, and my ability to swing the driver. And if I can hit it as hard as I like and still find it on the fairway, that's going to make a massive difference to my scores, because the 6 or 7 over par that I played the last couple of times out was to a great deal to do with the penalty shots that I was getting because of wayward drives. Hope this has helped you. If it has, then please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. The little bell will give you notifications the next time that I post a video, and I shall leave my PDF on my philosophy on golf up in the left-hand corner if you're interested in a little bit of nighttime reading. Thanks very much for joining me again. See you soon. Bye-bye.